What is up, America? The end of the week has arrived, which means it is time for another episode of PlayUSA's Friday Five. Welcome back, welcome in. Let me begin. I'm at Grant D. Lucas in the Twitterverse, at Grant Lucas in the real world, coming at you with another 5 quick hits on what caught my eyes this week, sprinkling in along the way some of my wonderfully annoying and random references that truly put Google to work. Now, before we get going, to stay updated on all we do here, from latest news to Q&As to this here incredibly produced and executed shindig, go ahead and like us and click the subscribe button below. And to get notifications when we do update new content, make like those gloved musicians during Christmas time at church and ring that bell. All right, let's get to it. I missed golf's major championships. Who didn't really? Of course, we've been devoid of them since the coronavirus pandemic shut virtually everything down in mid-March. The Masters was supposed to be the first major, scheduled to go in early April, but obviously that never happened. Instead, we had to wait patiently for the end of summer, for the PGA Championship, which finally arrived at TPC Harding Park in San Francisco, and it did not disappoint. The PGA Championship kicked off the not really Grand Slam of 2020. After all, the Open Championship is not going to happen this year, so if it's the PGA, the US Open, and then the Masters, 3 tournaments, we'll call it the Holy Triumvirate. The Holy Triumvirate. That's a pun, you see. Anyway, some 13 months have passed since the last major championship, and as the PGA approached, we celebrated. In a month, the US Open will come, and just before Thanksgiving, that classic turkey watch party of the Masters. Big time golf was back, and with it, an abundance of storylines. Tiger Woods was going for his 16th major title, which would be 2 back of Jack Nicklaus's all-time record. Jordan Spieth had a shot at the career Grand Slam. Brooks Koepka, a heavy sports betting favorite, he'd won each of the previous 2 PGA championships. Only Walter Hagen ever won 3 straight, and that came in the 1920s, when the tournament was match play as opposed to stroke play. Hagen can rest easy though, as Brooks took the weekend off from contending. Yeah, Brooks, I can shoot barbs too. Still, even more storylines came about. Aside from the young golfers like Bryson DeChambeau or Tony Finau taking the torch from the older guys, there was still an eye on those older players. Older in quotation marks. 43-year-old Paul Casey, for example, he's fared relatively well in majors, but he has as many major championships as I do. None. At 63 starts in major championships without a title, he went into the week with the longest active drought. Plus, the Englishman was playing for his country. No English player has won the PGA Championship since 1919, a streak that continues now, but we'll get to that in a sec. There was virtually no way the tournament would end without fanfare, and in fact, it ended in fireworks. Again, more on that in a minute, because first, I want to get to this. Back in May, Phil Mickelson was part of a group that helped bring excitement back to our television screens. The match 2 with Phil and Tom Brady against Tiger and Peyton Manning, it went on without fans obviously, but mics were all over the place. Lefty being lefty, Phil talked. A lot. All the time. But much of it was educational. Even though we do wish there was some more smack talking, Phil is among the best at it. But still, Phil at the PGA, he played subpar, as in didn't do well. He wasn't in the running for the title. He finished 6th to last, actually, among players who made the cut, but that's beside the point. He went into the booth during the 3rd round and crushed it. From the get-go, Phil broke down the course, not just in terms of basics like green speeds or thick rough, but beyond that. Stuff like shot maneuvering because of the wind and heavy air, contoured greens, greens that invited plenty of made putts, which he followed with a self-zinger, not by me, but the players. It's that kind of analysis and wit that no doubt has a chair reserved for him next to Jim Nantz once Phil decides to hang it up. But it wasn't just because of his post-round analysis. Cameras went out to the live action, to Koepka, and Mickelson turned into Tony Romo with his shot calling. saying the two-time defending champ had plenty of room at the front of the green to skip the ball up toward the pin. What does Brooks do? Exactly that. There's no doubt Nick Faldo's chair is getting warm, and I'm not the only one that thought so. Phil Mickelson is as good talking about golf as anyone is talking about anything. Duct tape Phil Mickelson to that chair and don't let him leave until 8:30 p.m. on Sunday. Yeah, he's a favorite to be an analyst once he decides golf isn't his game anymore. All this Phil praise is taxing. Taxing. Get it? Alright, this is where Google comes into play. Google Phil Mickelson and taxing. Alright, moving on. It's of course natural for lengthy anticipation to create so much hype that it seems nothing could match it. This PGA Championship was not like that. From start to finish, action abounded. But that final round, there has never been anything like it. In a 15-minute span near Sunday's start, we went from one single leader, Dustin Johnson, to 6 co-leaders. And at that time, 16 players were 6 under or better, with the leaders sitting at 9 under. Near the halfway point, 12 players were within 2 strokes of the leaders, DJ and Paul Casey. By the way, let me take this time to sympathize with all the Dustin Johnson bettors out there. I could have warned you. With 8 holes left for the final pairing, 4 players were at 10 under. 3 were 1 stroke back. Another 5 were at 8 under. It was absurd. 2 holes later, the co-leader crowd swelled to 7 players, each at 10 under par. But it was the 14th hole when the fireworks began. After a brutal approach left Colin Morikawa short and right of the green, the 23-year-old decided to birdie anyway, a chip in that put him into sole possession of the lead. Soon after, Casey also birdied, then there were only 2 leaders, each at 11 under. By now, we've all seen or heard the Morikawa shot at 16, one that will forever roll on major tournament highlights. If you haven't, don't worry, I got you covered.
Top tracer, powered by Top Golf. It looks like a wow. It's brilliant, Nick. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That is what we've been waiting for. 23 years of age. That's just him. The shot of his life.
The drivable par 4 was waiting all day. Tournament organizers set the hole up for exactly this kind of moment. One that took Twitter by storm, including fellow pro Tyrrell Hatton. Morikawa put it within 7 feet, then drained the eagle putt to go 2 shots up with 2 holes to play. He held on, and the great Jim Nantz wrapped it up the only way Jim Nantz can.
Little tap in, Nick. 64 final round. And the California kid is the new star in the game of golf. That could be a huge star. This man could be a mega star.
Morikawa seemed destined for this win. A California kid who played at Cal Berkeley, who played this particular course numerous times. Then put together a near flawless final round. Emphasis on near flawless. There's no way I can get through this show without checking in on some positive payouts betting wise. Morikawa has been a relatively popular wager since the restart. He's accurate, he's a great putter. If not for a few hiccups earlier this year, he might have 4 or even 5 tour wins. Those mistakes though, that did not dissuade any bettors. Take one DraftKings Sportsbook bettor for example, who put down a whopping $75,000 on the young golfer to win.
Forward, not right. Forward.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that bettor can pocket a cool 750 large. How can I become that guy's friend? FanDuel Sportsbook reported the PGA Championship standing as the #1 event for customers on Sunday. At plus 1,000, the Morikawa win turned a $3,300 bet into over 36 grand. Bet Rivers actually saw some loyalty with Morikawa. Earlier this year, a bettor backed the golfer during the Workday Open, a risk that resulted in $1 million. The same bettor did it again for the PGA, cashing in a mediocre $327,000. We like to do this a lot in the media. This tournament winner is the next star of the PGA Tour. We did it with Rory McIlroy over a decade ago. We did it with Jordan Spieth when he was on a roll. We've done it and still do it with Brooks Koepka. Now, it's Colin Morikawa's turn in the spotlight. He was almost perfect in the PGA Championship. His 64 tied the lowest final round score for a PGA champion ever. His 129 over the last 36 holes is the lowest ever in PGA Championship history. He picked up his third tour win, second since the restart, and became the third youngest PGA champion behind Rory and Jack Nicklaus. Plus, he became the youngest player ever in any major tournament to break 65 in the final round. It was only his second appearance in a major tournament and his first in the PGA. He became the first player since 2011 to win the Wanamaker Trophy in his first attempt. In less than a month, he'll have a shot at the US Open at Winged Foot Golf Club in New York. No doubt he'll be among the favorites, if not the favorite, to win there. 2 months later then, the Masters. Golf's major championships have returned. At long last, they have returned. Next week, we will return with another edition of Friday Five. Again, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Check out all of our updates and news here and on PlayUSA.com, as well as our sister sites. I gotta get out of here. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will catch you all up again next week on a brand new episode of PlayUSA's Friday Five.